On the 9th of March 2024, the world head of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad, may Allah be his helper, delivered the keynote address at the 18th National Peace Symposium UK. The event was attended by over 1,000 people, including dignitaries and guests who had gathered from over 20 countries, comprising of ministers, ambassadors of state, and members of parliament. During the proceedings, His Holiness presented Adi Rosh, founder of the charity Chernobyl Children International, with the 2020 Ahmadiyya Muslim Prize for the Advancement of Peace. Similarly, His Holiness also presented David Spurdle, founder of the charity Stand By Me, with the 2023 Ahmadiyya Muslim Prize for the Advancement of Peace. In his address, His Holiness stated that for 2 decades he has urged governments, politicians, and all people to play their respective roles in de-escalating world conflicts and bringing about peace in the world.
For over 2 decades, I have urged governments, politicians, and all people to play their roles in ensuring social cohesion of our individual societies and the wider peace and harmony of the world. I have expressed my views on how we can bring an end to all forms of warfare, whether conflicts fought falsely in the name of religion or those which are overtly geopolitical. I have not only spoken of the pressing need to end wars between nations, but also to tackle the frustrations that exists locally within communities and to strive for peace in those nations where civil wars or internal disputes are rife.
His Holiness went on to reflect on whether there was any point in this gathering. He questioned what benefit the symposium would bring if those who hold power are intent on ignoring calls for peace.
As I thought about today's event, I wondered whether there was any point in us gathering here again. What benefit was there for us to speak about peace and justice if those with the power and ability to influence change were determined not to hear us? The stark reality is that even those institutions founded with the primary objective of maintaining the peace and security of the world are becoming increasingly irrelevant. For example, the United Nations has become a weak and almost powerless body, where a few dominant nations wield all the power and easily override the views of the majority. Instead of deciding each issue based on its facts and merits, nations have formed alliances and vote according to their self-interests. Ultimately, critical decisions are made by a few privileged nations in whose hands rests the veto power.
Hazur, may Allah be his helper, then prayed for the world to come to its senses and urged urgent action from policymakers to establish peace before it is too late.
With all my heart, I hope and pray that before it is too late, the world comes to its senses and brings an end to the brutalities and wars taking place in the world. Certainly, it is my opinion that there should be a full ceasefire between Israel and Hamas or Palestine, and also in the war between Russia and Ukraine. Thereafter, instead of inciting their respective allies towards further warfare, all members of the international community should prioritize ensuring relief effort or stepped up to help those in desperate need and focus on bringing about a lasting and peaceful settlement. If instead we stand by and let these wars escalate further, countless more innocent lives will be lost. And surely history will judge us with contempt as the author of our own destruction and misery.
In conclusion, Hazur, may Allah be his helper, emphasized the need of the time and gave a call to all to focus their energies on working towards a world of hope and prosperity.
Political leaders and those who have access to policymakers must take a long-term view of what is in the best interest of mankind, rather than being blinded by selfish desires to assert their superiority over others. We must all come together, setting aside national, political, and other vested interests for the greater good of humanity, and to ensure that we leave behind a prosperous world for our future generations. It is the need of the time that we must focus all our energies and efforts on establishing true peace so that we may live in a world of hope and prosperity.
Hazur then led all present in a silent prayer. After the event, MTA News spoke with those in attendance to get their feedback on the event.
It was music to my ears, and also I felt very emotional because he is the only leader that I know or that I've come across that actually speaks it as it is. He speaks about the dangers of if we ignore the progression towards making war and more of a nuclear exchange, we ignore it at our peril. And the whole of civilization will pay the ultimate price. And I believe His Holiness has foreseen this in the last number of years. And I think people now are beginning to listen with a new set of ears, because they understand that actually his vision of what, unless we bring about peace. So I just love the whole idea of a community being absolutely knitted together with one sole purpose, and that is the creation of world peace.
I really thought his speech was thought-provoking. I think he's courageous to criticise Israel and to criticise America. These people are ruining the lives of thousands of children and widows, women. The devastation in Gaza is deplorable. Humanity should be ashamed of itself, and I really think His Holiness was brave in saying what he said in the way that he said it, and what he said is true. There's only one way forward, and that's through love and compassion and reaching out and bravery.
His Holiness is always inspirational. I've had the huge honour to hear him at many peace symposiums, and I can tell you that they do make a difference. Politicians of all parties listen to him. I've had the huge honour to hear him here, but also meet him one-to-one, and I've always welcomed his advice. Indeed, I've sought his advice on a number of awful wars we've had over the years. And with the horrific violence in Gaza, as well as the appalling war in Ukraine, we need world leaders like His Holiness to speak up. We need all politicians to listen hard and take action to get the peace we all want.